Hello, this is Jennifer Brown and Jennifer Short with our Leadership Style Showcase presenting Power and Influence. Have you ever wanted to know the secret behind power and influence? Would you like to incorporate power and influence into your work so you can finally make the improvements within your organization you've been dreaming of? First, let's begin by removing the negative connotations behind power and influence. We'll look at the true definition of power, apply this definition to organizational leadership, and look at the application of power and influence to clinical leadership. Once we've discussed these details, we can explore two historical leaders as examples of power and influence. Power and influence go hand in hand. By definition, power is the capacity to direct people or a course of events, whereas influence is the capacity to affect or to have an effect on something or someone. Power often has negative connotations like power hungry or all the power went to his head. The Lord Acton quote, "Power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely," is how most identify with the word power. There are definitely individuals who have power but don't use it. Imagine the head of a company who is absent most of the time. By position, this person has power but does not use it to influence outcomes, while there are individuals without official power that influence others every day. Connecting influence and power to create effective leadership is a skill.
So power is closely related to influence. In the book Leadership, Northouse describes power as the ability to influence people. Individuals have power when they have the ability to affect people's beliefs, attitudes, and courses of action. Although research on power is limited because there are no explicit theories in the research literature about power, it is undeniable that power and influence are part of leadership. Bowman and Deal suggest there's a shift away from absolute power awarded to leaders in society today. Technology has opened doors for access to information. Knowledge and information provides followers a balance of power. Power is defined as the capacity to direct people or courses of events. Power makes things happen. Within personal and work-related relationships, power is multidirectional. It is an ongoing process of negotiation and bargaining. Influence follows power, and power follows influence. The two are symbiotic, but if not used with proper awareness or intention, there can be serious consequences. Power may be used positively or negatively. When used negatively, it may well cause conflict. Used positively, it can be used to overcome conflict and even avert it. According to Northouse, there are two major types of power: position power and personal power. Position power comes from holding a particular office, such as president, or rank, like Army General. The power is derived by the organizational structure that gives the person authority over others. Personal power relates to the capacity a leader has to influence followers because they are knowledgeable and likable. So let's explore this a bit further. Position power is defined by Bowman and Deal in four categories: legitimate, reward, coercive, and information. Legitimate power comes from a person's role or position. Example, a CEO or a manager can set deadlines and have the ability to hire or fire personnel, or a police officer who has the ability to influence the laws by arresting individuals. Reward power comes when individuals who have power to grant an award. Examples include bonuses, better job assignments. Reward power tends to go hand in hand with legitimate power. Bosses have the ability to grant awards based on performance, and that can influence people. Coercive power is the opposite of reward power. It is the power to punish or take away things for bad performance or noncompliance to the rules. Information power is what comes from access to specific information. Within organizations, typically the higher up an individual, the more access they have to information. Such the saying, knowledge is power. Personal power is described with two categories. Referent power is related to the degree in which we like, respect, or want to be like someone, also known as charisma. Those with the ability to speak well and hold someone's attention play into this type of power. Expert is a power extended from knowledge or skill. If an individual is the only one who knows how to do something and others want to know how to do it, then they have power to decide who they will share the information with and how.
While we discuss the styles of power, let's explore influence styles. Asserting. You insist that your ideas are heard, and you challenge the ideas of others. Convincing. You put forward your ideas and offer logical, rational reasons to convince others of your point of view. Negotiating. You look for compromises and make concessions to reach outcomes that satisfy your greater interest. Bridging. You build relationships and connect with others through listening, understanding, and building coalitions. Inspiring. You advocate your position and encourage others with a sense of shared purpose and exciting possibilities. You can see that the balance of power and influence between leaders and followers is on a continuum, from the first to the last. There may be a time and place for asserting and convincing, especially when changes in attitude or situations are time sensitive and must happen quickly. Sharing of power takes time and relationship building to make changes.
So how does power and influence apply to organizational leadership? How can we change the balance of power within our own workplace? By redefining this fluid give and take of power, we can apply this to organizational leadership. Networking and alliances form at every level in organizations. Members with common interests naturally build coalitions. Together, they have more power than they do apart. In order to accomplish organizational goals, we need power. And it's said there are power in numbers. This may not always be easy. Agreement and harmony are found when everyone shares similar values, beliefs, or culture. As coalitions of like-minded people strive for their own individual goals, there may be conflict in organizations. Conflict is normal and inevitable. Bowman and Deal convey that conflict encourages new ideas and growth. More important than how much conflict is found within an organization is how the conflict is managed. Graceful management includes advocacy and negotiation. An intriguing example of this may be exploring the leadership behind the United Auto Workers. There is power in numbers of the UAW in negotiating and advocating for a safe work environment. The conflict between management and workers is constantly being negotiated with a multi-directional flow of power.
Applying power and influence into clinical leadership also needs to address the multi-directional flow. With power comes great responsibility, right? As leaders, we may find many different sources of power. It is essential to be aware of your own power. Positions such as a teacher or a healthcare provider directly affect many people's lives. Coercive power is used to constrain, block, interfere, or punish, and it's used by many leaders. It may even be used without the person in the leadership role being aware they're using it. Consider an older adult who is taught to blindly accept what the doctor ordered and the unilateral direction of power. It needs to be recognized that people are then being influenced by the position, not the person. Reputation is a source of expert personal power. It's been found that opportunities and influence flow to people with strong reputations. Let that person with a strong reputation be you. Here are 6 techniques that skilled leaders use to boost their reputation and influence others, often without others even noticing they've been influenced. Number 1, reciprocate. If you scratch someone's back, it's likely they will scratch yours. Build a relationship that both parties benefit from. 2, commitment and consistency. If you commit and follow through with something, people will bank on you being consistent with your commitments in the future. Number 3, social proof. If you offer evidence that everyone is doing it, it's more likely that your target will do it as well. Also, knowing what their cultural influences are may identify gaps in communication and address misconceptions. 4, liking. The more I like you and you like me, the more likely you will do what I ask. This needs to be authentic. Don't pretend to be someone you are not to get others to like you. Show real interest in them and their lives. Be true to yourself. 5, authority. If you are in a position of power, people will likely do as you ask. Use this position wisely and try to get them to be part of the decision-making as much as possible. 6, scarcity. If there is a supply and demand problem, it will cost more. Know your value. Be a unique source of information, and they will need you. Keep them coming back, increasing your demand. This increases the amount of influence you have. The trick is to close the gap by using multiple techniques. Forward thinking can redefine power and influence. The secret behind power and influence is no longer driven by force and aggression. You can incorporate power and influence using these 6 techniques while improving your organization. Redefine the word power to empower. Lose the negative attachments associated and influence others to a better tomorrow. Nelson Mandela is a perfect example of personal power with a strong reputation of charm and charisma. He had a skill of self-awareness and social awareness that allowed him great vision. His reputation was a potent symbol of resistance as the racial segregation movement gathered strength. He had an uncanny ability to motivate his followers. Consistently, he refused to compromise his political position to obtain his freedom from prison. From a place of personal power and influence, he established himself into a power position of president. His graceful position of power ultimately resolved conflict. President Mandela's quote is an excellent example of the continuum seen in leadership. He says, "It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory, when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger. Then people will appreciate your leadership."
Steve Jobs is another example of power and influence at work. You can break down his power into categories that we previously discussed. He has legitimate power as the leader/CEO of Apple. In the position of CEO, he had reward power to give raises and bonuses, promotions, or work assignments onto the top projects, and was well known also for his corrosive power and threatening to fire employees to motivate them. He certainly had expert power, known as a pioneer in the tech world, and Apple is known for quietly working on projects and then doing big reveals. Steve Jobs perfected the use of holding on to information as a way of keeping power. Jobs rose to his level of power through dedication and diligence, known for both his charisma and abrasiveness. His success is undeniable, and his ability to use power is clear. The way he used power changed over time, another sign of a successful leader. So that's the end of our presentation. Here are the references we used. Thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed exploring power and influence as much as we did.
Thank you.